Are we gonna keep swinging for Stacey down here in these comments? Like, are y'all gonna keep making excuses for her lying? Like, what's been blowing me is the fact that y'all have been on Tia's head acting like Tia's in the wrong. Like, Tia's not wrong because she's been gaslit by Stacey. And I feel like what y'all are failing to realize is you can like somebody but still clock them. Yes, Stacey is lying and y'all are stating that the reason as to why y'all don't make it a big deal is because they're small lies, but she's still lying. And not only that, she's trying to gaslight Tia into acting like Tia's making a big issue out of something that's not an issue, which we find out is an issue. But we're going to get into it. I'm going to be holding Stacey accountable. And yes, I am going to do it because I do like her, but we got to call the facts the facts. She is a liar. She done got caught in another lie again. And she even elaborated on why that lie was a lie. And we found out why, but we're going to get to it in a minute. But shout out to y'all who joined last week. I think we got like 10 new subs. So keep thumbsing up the videos. Do that real quick. Get in the comments, hype the video, subscribe if you're new, share the video. And yeah, let's get into this. This episode really didn't have much to really talk about until like the end. Like the Gizelle and Monique scene was good, but then the ending was it. But we had 2 Ashley solo scenes, which I'm not going to be talking about, but you see what happens when you give Ashley a lot of screen time. Not the most eventful episode. All right, so we start the episode off with Gizelle at the dealership, the BMW dealership. I think it was BMW. She's looking at G-Wagons, and she wants to get an electric car because of how times are changing. So Wendy arrives. Wendy also wants an electric car, but they start talking about Stacey, and Wendy basically states like Stacey don't know how to pretty much state that she likes what Wendy does. She just tends to mimic it. And then we find out as well that she even reached out to Wendy's stylist to get her to style her. As we all know, Vivian's no longer doing that. But Wendy says, I don't think she's a bad person. I think she's sweet. And that's the thing too. I don't think Stacey's a bad person either, but she is a liar. And she lies a lot, which to a certain degree, I would say like 50-50 is the reason as to why they be on her case. Because she do be lying. But there's another side where I feel like they do too much on her. But we got to hold her accountable. But Gizelle says at this point, you can have her. She might be a sweet person, but you can have her. I don't want her. And Wendy's like, y'all keep jumping on her. Gizelle says, Stacey makes her bed with the lies that she makes, which we're going to get into it later. And I want to see how that actually unfolds, if it does. But Gizelle then says that she's going to take a step back from Stacey because she has no more energy for it. And I'm like, you don't need any more because you do be doing too much when it comes to her. But Gizelle and Wendy, they hop in the car to go test drive with the salesman, and Gizelle's struggling, trying to figure out how to start it. But they then start talking about Karen, talking about get Karen out, saying free Karen. Wendy agrees that she should be freed, and Gizelle says, especially with Monique being out right now. So they start talking about how it felt seeing Monique. And Wendy enjoyed it. She was like, but it was a surprise to me because the last time we saw her was with the binder. So Wendy ends up asking Gizelle how it feels for her. And Gizelle's like, I want to have a sit down with her to discuss where we went wrong. And we do need to clear the air if she is going to be around. So we then see Stacey. She's out with AJ and she's talking about the launch of Shio, which she has on Juneteenth. That's cool. But she then says that she's the first Black woman in the state of Virginia to actually have her own cannabis business. And she talks about how she had sent a group text to the entire group, pretty much inviting them to the launch. Remember this, the entire group. And she says she doesn't know who's going to show up because she's not on the best terms with the majority of the women there. And people like to hate. So Stacey then says too that she's always the one being accused of things. And lately Ashley and Kay are telling Monique that she used to date Chris. And AJ's confused, like, what's going on? And he was like, that's dumb. Like how they sitting here playing telephone with this whole shit. Stacey then says too, and Miss Prim and Proper, talking about Tia, tried to read her in a British way. So AJ says, so you just gonna let somebody come across the pond and read you? Like, you from Detroit, you put your foot down and check them. She has been though. Stacey says, I'm not confrontational, but at some point I've had enough. But she has been checking them though. Like, I feel like every time they try her, she does give them that energy back, but not the energy in the way that they want. They want her to like blow up. She gives them the energy that she should. Like, she subtly gives them that read that she needs and shuts them down, even though she do be lying sometimes. But we see Tia, she's at her real estate office, and she decides that she wants to call Stacey because she's been apprehensive about the brand invite. So she goes outside to call her, and Tia pretty much thanks her for the invite and says, like, I feel like I want to come and support you. And I feel like we probably should talk things out because the way it ended and the way it went down at the event is not the way that I would actually like it to happen. That's what T is stating. So Stacey then says like, yeah, I was confused by your response at the event. So Tia then says too, I agree. Like, I feel like it's important that we do sit down and see where we went wrong and what's going on. Stacey agrees to it. And Tia says like, yeah, I'm upset with you. And Stacey then says like, yeah, I just want to figure it out and we can figure it out from there and we'll agree to chat soon. We get Ashley's first scene out with Josh to break up with him at the arcade. I'm going to tell y'all now, we got 2 solo scenes with Ashley, and neither one of them I'm going to spend any time on. I'm not. I barely wrote any notes down at all. But she's basically breaking up with him, trying to tell him that his finances are not where she needs them to be. You just got your finances to be where you wanted them to be because of your settlement. Michael has literally funded your entire life, and you just finally got a nice payout, which is why you are financially where you want it. And you got the nerve to sitting here playing with this man. Like, get out of here. But we see Gizelle and Monique. They sit down, and this is where we get to see where they are, how they discuss what went down, and how they got to a good stand. So Gizelle's sitting there first, and Monique comes on in. They hug each other. They ask how each other's been. And Gizelle's like, where do we begin? They sit down, where do we begin? And Monique's like, yes, there's a lot to discuss. And Gizelle says, do I begin at drag me, Monique? I said, mess. But Monique says like, my dragon days are over. I've been delivered. So they order their meal, and Monique then starts talking about how she's had to pretty much think about why she was mad at Gizelle. I said, you really did. But she said, I've done a lot of self-reflection instead of me like pretty much sitting and being the victim and being mad at everybody else. She pretty much sat down and really reflected on her actions, where she is, why she got to that point. And she then talks about how she's been confronting things that had pretty much happened to her over the years, which kind of triggered a lot of those things that happened in those moments. And she had to make peace with those. And this, talking about the environment she's in now, was one of those areas that she hadn't made peace with. So she then states too that when Ashley invited her around the group, she was like, this is the opportunity that I can finally get to the point where I can continue my healing journey with making peace with this. So Gizelle then says, once you reflected, what did you come up with? So Monique says, I mean, you have the tendency to be in people's relationships, which is where we went off the rails. She's not lying. Gizelle is always in somebody's business, especially when it comes to a relationship. So she mentions the trainer and the big boy comments that Gizelle had made. And Monique says, like, I mean, I was just in protective mode of my image. As we all know, she's been talking about how like her whole thing was keeping up that image that she had as like this perfect couple with Chris. And she's saying that's kind of how I was. I was protective of my image, which made me attack you with the whole pastor, holy whores, all that stuff. So Monique then says that she felt bad when she saw Grace a couple weeks ago and realized how her actions have impacted her as well. But Gizelle then says that she felt like there was some real life hate coming from Monique towards Gizelle, more so than Gizelle going to Monique. I said, Gizelle, be for real. If anything, is reversed. Like, Monique was only reacting to the energy you gave her, and you gave off hater from day one when it came to Monique. Like, let's keep it real. But Monique says, I mean, I wouldn't say that you was always innocent, which she wasn't. Giselle says, I mean, I've had my parts for sure. I felt sorry, and I just want you to know that. I said, now, what kind of apology / accountability is that, Giselle? I felt sorry, and I just wanted you to know that. What about what you did? You played a part in that as well. Monique didn't just come at you for no reason. Like, you literally was on her head from the moment she came on the show. But Monique appreciates it because you can tell Monique is just trying to be in a good space. And Gizelle says that she felt like Monique was just ready for some drama and nonsense. And Gizelle said all she could think of after the fight is that Monique wanted it to happen, and that was a lie. Monique says, yes, it was a lie, and I would never want that to happen. It was just a pileup of a lot of shit that just unloaded, and she didn't say this, but Candace just happened to be the person that just got the unloaded. So Monique is in her confessional stating that she feels like things she hadn't dealt with kind of piled up, and it was triggering, and that's what led to what happened. But she did take accountability. People always want to say she didn't take accountability. She don't take accountability. She said there was no excuse and my reaction was terrible. I owned up to my actions, and that's what triggered my spiritual journey. I do want her to apologize, though, to Candace. If they ever have that opportunity to do that, I would like to see that. But yeah, Monique's holding herself accountable. Like, she, to my knowledge, hasn't had a conversation with Candace since then, or since the reunion. But I mean, I feel like that would be nice. But Gizelle then says that she didn't want that to happen again, and she couldn't figure out who it was in Monique's ear that was making her crazy, so she blamed Chris. Monique says, I mean, it was just pressure. Like, it's not even, I'm not going to blame Chris either. It was just the pressure of keeping up a certain image, being with somebody who's a public figure, and it was just like a recipe for disaster, because also with trying to keep up that image, I also am a perfectionist as well. But Gizelle was like, I mean, I wanted to come in here and be like, fuck you, Monique, but I'm happy that we're at this point where we concluded this. They agree to communicate, essentially. Like, they can throw shade at each other or whatever, but if they have an issue, communicate. That's what grown people do. That's what grown people do. But we then transition to a scene of Greg, Angel, and Kay's mom. Since we're talking about this, Kay got no screen time besides her confessional later on. That was it. Kay, but they're out looking for rings. Angel talks about how her and Kay have been friends for 20 years. We already know that. And she's honored that Greg pretty much chose her to be the one to come look for the rings. So Angel starts talking about how Kay's mom and Greg are in such a great place. They're like mother and son. I said, are they really? Because looking here, you still see Kay's mom looking like, is she irritated? Like, yeah, we finally here looking at rings, but are you actually going to buy one and give it to my daughter? But they start looking at the rings. As the carat sizes increase, I don't know if y'all was catching it, but Greg was looking a little bit regretful. But Greg says he gonna run them back with Kay before he makes a purchase. And the lady that's showing him the rings tells him she will be happy with whatever you get, which we know she will. She just wants the ring. And he agrees. He agrees. And when he was agreeing, Mama was over there looking like, what you trying to say? You better put some money into this ring. But we get another Ashley solo scene out with her sister talking about Josh. Don't care. Moving on. Wendy and Eddie, they are at his pop-up shop for Happy Eddie, and he has a new strain coming out called the Nutty Professor, which is named after Wendy. And Wendy talks about how like Stacey didn't want her to know about the inner workings of what she had going on, talking about the cannabis line. And Wendy says she wasn't bothered that she wasn't invited. I said, what? Wendy, who is supposedly Stacey's, in this moment in time, it's like we know they close now, as we've seen post-show at BravoCon. But even just last week, Wendy was the one having Stacey's back at that event and at the table, yet you don't want to invite her to your brand opening. And it's like, this is where you start to question if she's doing this business to kind of get and compete with Wendy/Eddie, because Eddie comes with Wendy. Why would you not invite her to this? Why would you not invite her to this? And I don't think Wendy's lying when it comes to not receiving an invite, but we're going to get to this in a minute because we move over to Stacey Shio launch event. And she's in her confessional stating that she wants to show her daughter what it's like to pretty much have something and own it and create a legacy that'll last a lifetime, which is good. But the producer ends up asking Stacey if she owns her business, and she gives a roundabout pageant answer without stating no, but basically stating no. But back to Happy Eddie's event. I had to mention it. Wendy has a Bring Eddie Out shirt on. If you know what went through my mind, I ain't gonna say it. But Jazzy, she arrives to Stacey's event. She's wearing denim, as is Stacey. Tia arrives shortly. She congratulates Stacey and greets Jazzy and AJ as well, who's there as well. But Tia's like, I mean, I'm gonna be the bigger person, celebrate her, and figure out our issues later. So Stacey then tells Jazzy that Ashley said that she would be there. So Tia then asks, is Wendy coming as well? I mean, we all would expect her to. Stacey says she's not going to make it. But yeah, I mean, she was very celebratory and just couldn't be here. But she's been very supportive of my business. I said, now, Wendy said that she didn't get an invite. And you basically saying that she couldn't make it. So did you give her the invite? Which I don't believe she did, because Stacey lies. Even though we know Wendy lied too, apparently. But I choose to believe Wendy over Stacey in this moment. Because this is the second instant where Wendy's been snubbed by Stacey. The whole meeting with Timo at the pool, she invited Tia over Wendy, which we later find out. We're gonna talk about it in a minute. But that's one instant, and then we got this too. So I just don't get it, because if she's supposed to be your closest friend in the group, she should be there. She should be there. But Stacey says in her confessionals that she would love the support from all of her friends, which Wendy is really your only friend in this group. Jazzy's here. So other than that, who are your other friends? Because Gizelle's not your friend, Ashley's not your friend, Kay is not your friend, Angel's not your friend. So who else are you talking about? But Stacey then says that Angel and Gizelle won't be there either. Gizelle says in her confessional she was invited, but she told her, I'm not coming. I don't know why she would invite Gizelle. I don't. Because why would you want that energy at your event when you know she don't like you and you know she gonna do anything to shade you? And Kay says no thank you. That's the only time Kay got screen time this episode. But Tia ends up asking, where's Timo at? Good question. Where is he at? He's not going to support you at your event. But Stacey says he's traveling, as he always is. I said that look that she gave said otherwise. Is he really traveling? Like, is he really? But Wendy's over there trying to make a purchase. This over at Happy Eddie, trying to make a purchase. She don't know her debit card PIN number. And she states, because I always use credit. I said, I bet you do. Eddie says you don't want to try too many times or it'll lock you out. I said, But Ashley, she's arriving at Stacey's event and Stacey greets her. Ashley talks about how she had wore the same dress that Stacey's currently wearing last week. And Stacey's catching the shade. She's like, don't come in here on that. So Ashley's in her confessionals talking about, if you want to be me, just say that. Ain't nobody trying to be you, Ashley. Ain't nobody trying to be you. You trying to be Candace with the singing and stuff and like all. Please. But they start talking about how they got the same hair today as well. They do have the same hair. But Stacey says, what's your inspiration? And Ashley says, not you. But Ashley then says that she's happy to be here even though they go back and forth. They can support each other. You're only here to be messy, Ashley, and you're here to get camera time. That's what it is. But Stacey then says, with that being said, I want to talk to you about something, and we'll do it in private. So they go walking off, which was not private because they just went 3 or 4 steps away from Tia and Jazzy, and then everybody else that's at the event can see the conversation. But they walk off, and Stacey ends up asking how Ashley wants to move forward because she feels like Ashley concentrates on whatever she perceives to be negative about Stacey instead of moving forward, which is true. But Ashley then says, because there's always instances that make me see you in a different light. Stacey says, everything that you've brought to me about me, I've proven to be false, even the thing with Monique. Ashley says, Monique's choosing to let it go, so am I. Tia and Jazzy, they're sitting there eavesdropping because it's getting louder, but they're standing right there, so of course they're going to hear. But Stacey then says that Wendy's also choosing to let it go as well, so she has no problem with my brand. And I'm like, so why is she not why is she not here? Why did you not invite her? But Ashley says, I don't have a problem with it either, but I also don't want you being a lying ass hoe. I said, now why are you calling her out her name, Ashley? You trying so hard to have a moment. Lying asshole. Why you gotta call her a lying asshole? Like, she's a liar, but the asshole, like, why? But Ashley says, I'm here. Do you see me here? Can you acknowledge the fact that I'm here? But I also want to mention too, because Stacey didn't have the energy that she had for Tia later on when Tia told her to shut up, but you got this girl calling you a lying asshole. Stacey, come on, stop being selective. But Ashley says that, and Stacey says, can you acknowledge the fact that I've apologized for what I don't know? What you apologizing to Ashley for? And she says, I'm asking you woman to stop. So Ashley then says, I need you to stop giving me stuff, because at this point, if you don't stop giving me stuff, then I can't stop talking. You need to shut up, Ashley, because you're talking about shit that has nothing to do with you, but the only reason why you're talking about it is because you have nothing else to talk about. You don't have a storyline that anybody cares about. Your storyline is the same storyline that we've seen every season about your mama pretty much funding a man's life. We don't care about that. We don't care about that. But Ashley then says, so let's agree, no more lies. Stacey says, let's agree, no more negativity, no more evil. So everybody's standing around because they just getting louder and louder and louder, and it's getting more heightened. But Stacey, she tries to turn the energy around to something else. So they go and sit down and have refreshments where she got some fruit and water, and it looks like some bread over there. But they sit down, and Ashley says to Stacey that she's been authentic in the 10 years that she's been on this show. Ashley, please, you authentic. A bunch of lies. Like, let's keep it real. And she says, my feet have been held to the fire, and that's how we conduct ourselves in this group, and that's how we get closer as friends. I said, okay. But Stacey then says, I'm learning that, but I'm hoping that there's a way that we can understand each other. So Stacey then moves to Tia, who's sitting right next to her. So Stacey talks about how the morning that she had invited Tia out to meet Timo at the pool party, at the pool lesson, Tia had invited her and Timo out to dinner that day. So Stacey was like, I mean, he said, no, thank you. I'm traveling, which he did. But Stacey then says, I introduced you to him even before I introduced him to Wendy because I felt like you were neutral. She then also proceeds to state that when Wendy called, she then called to ask him why I wasn't there. And I said that I agreed to not be there, which you did. And she then states that I said too that Timo was traveling and you were in the background stating that she was full of it, talking about Stacey. Tia says, I mean, you literally said he just flew back. That's why I said that, which is why she said that. Like, Stacey's lying. I like Stacey just as much as y'all do. Trust me, she entertains the hell out of me. But one thing we're not going to do is sit here and gaslight like Tia sitting here wrongfully having an issue with Stacey to have a moment. Like, that's what I've seen all last week. Oh, Tia's trying to have a moment off of Stacey. No. Are y'all missing the fact that Stacey literally tries to make Tia out to look like she's some obsessed person trying to have a moment off of her? She lied on Tia, and then she tried to gaslight Tia in her face, and then got on the phone with Wendy, Eddie, and Tia's husband, sitting there playing in Tia's face like she didn't say what she said. Like, that's what y'all blowing me with that. But Tia says that, and she was like, your story, just tell your story and I'll tell mine. So Stacey says, I'm going to tell the truth, which you didn't. But she's like, I declined dinner. My comfort level with Wendy and Eddie is none of your business. Tia sitting there looking confused. Tia says, I didn't specifically state Wendy and Eddie. Wendy said, how come you met Timo, which she did. Like, y'all were talking about it, and Wendy's like, how come you met him? Basically like, how did I not meet him before you did? So Stacey starts talking and Tia interjects, and Stacey asks to finish, and Ashley's like, land the plane, like, get to the point. So Stacey then says Timo only had a glimpse of them, talking about the rest of the group, in New York 6 months ago at the reunion, pretty much talking about her and TJ. Was it TJ? Yeah, her and TJ. And she was like, my reason, this is where Stacey lied. She pretty much exposed herself as lying for her reasoning as to why they didn't go to that dinner. She said, my reasoning for not being there had to do with Wendy and Eddie. Because Timo didn't want to be around Wendy and Eddie. Yet you told Tia that the reason why y'all weren't there was because he was flying out, which he then flew back in. That's 3 different lies, Stacey. That's 3 different lies. I'm like, y'all got to clock that. If y'all don't clock it, I'm going to clock it. But Stacey says Tia's trying to play catch up and she tries to overstep. But Tia then says, I mean, I'll tell you why I'm upset. When I came into the group, I heard a lot of things that were alleged about you being a liar. I gave you the benefit of the doubt. All the while, you're sitting here telling me that I need to have your back. Stacey's denying it, and Tia says you did say that. Like, why are you trying to hijack this conversation? Because Tia's talking now. Stacey wanted Tia to shut up and let her finish. So when Tia's starting to talk, Stacey won't let her finish because she's sitting there talking. So Tia's like, why are you trying to hijack this conversation? Stacey says, go ahead. Tia says, I will if you just shut up. Now, you didn't have to say that, but I mean, I get it. But Stacey says, you're not going to tell me to shut up. But you let Ashley call you a lying asshole. And you ain't say nothing back to the Stacey. Come on now. Come on now. So Stacey says, this is the real her, talking about Tia. This is the real her. She likes to play prim and proper. Tia says, I don't need to play Detroit. I am prim and proper. I extended my manners. So Stacey then says, you didn't. You're so unladylike and you want to fit in so bad. So Tia then says, I mean, you're the person that's been in this group for a year and you still don't fit. So what does that say about you? Stacey says, you're such a tryhard, just like your fashion. So get your ass up out of my event. I died laughing when she said that. But this was just not a good look if you asking me. It's like you doing this because Tia's not wrong. Tia's not wrong. And Tia clocked Stacey at her event. This is the one time where somebody clocked Stacey for real, to where Stacey really didn't have a way to really get back at him. Like, Stacey can typically flip it. But her telling her to get up out, I mean, I guess that's a moment, but like, no, Tia was right. But she tells her to get up out of there, tells her to get her things. You want to act unladylike, get your things. I've had enough. Be gone, toodle-doo. So Tia gets up saying, fuck you. And she's walking out telling the guests that she's not buying anything from Stacey because she's trash. But next week, it seems like Angel might have gotten evicted. Allegedly. But we'll find out. But if y'all got this far, let me know y'all's thoughts. It might be controversial. It might be different than mine, but whatever. Get in the comments respectfully. Thumbs up the video. Get in the comments. Share the video. Subscribe if you're new. Like the video. Hype the video. And I'll see y'all next week. Peace.